Greetings and welcome back to Adore the Quest, Episode 6. In the previous episodes, we have been completing the main quest line. We have just reached the 4th area of the overworld maps, called the Forgotten Lands. And our current quest is to return to Gatordrick Forest at depth 4 and try to find Kisara. Now, in order to accomplish the quest successfully, we will need our primary team rested and ready to go. As you can see, Zaya was cursed in the previous battle, so we'll need to stay out for at least one level. And that I have been practicing with the lower level characters to get them a little more experience, some higher levels, or traits from the statues of Draknar. But I think for a depth 4, we're going to want to take our level 5 team just to complete this quest. But with a twist, we're going to take Scraw as a blessed creature, because it is time that we start balancing the level gains for our blessed creatures if the regular ones reach a cap at level 5. We'll definitely need some tougher creatures in our team in order to get further into the depth of Adore. And so it looks like Fubu might be a viable character, at least for now, until we get some other blessed creatures. So that'll give us 2 level 5s, 1 level 4, and a level 3, 2 of which are blessed, to try to complete this quest at depth 4. My previous efforts at depth 4, we took some damage pretty quickly, some heavy damage. Very easy to, well, I guess you could say, to be defeated in depth 4. Even with a team that you're practiced with and have good synergy. Depth 4 requires a pretty good attentiveness to the combat situation. So, without further ado, let's dive into the next steps of the main quest in Adore. Well, already we've found a particle of Gatordrick, and we will need that particle. I think that going for stamina would be the good choice right now. Even though we are short on hit points, we could have instantly healed up there. I am not worried about the health as much as just the being careful when fighting these enemies. As example, you can see they are coming up from hidden areas. It looks like Scraw and Fubu each get a new trait. Let's see what they have available. Scraw gets extra energy faster, or 10% chance to recover health. Yes, please, because we're going with extra attacks with Scraw. So multiple attacks makes a lot of sense with Scraw. As for Fubu, Fubu can create a healing orb with a finishing blow, or increase movement speed. 10%. Well, I don't think of Fubu as so much of a finisher as more of a tank. And getting out there quickly, I think, is going to be more of an essential skill for this character. So we'll go ahead and go for speed with Fubu and self-healing with Scraw, because Scraw is a DPS character. Okay, well, I guess this zone is clear. Let's look around for some scraps and see what we can find. So far, so good. I think I would like to try to capture this mushroom creature, just so we can unlock it in our collections. See how we can do this. Got it. Moosh. That's a fun name for a little mushroom character. And it seems that we have a little mushroom following us around now. So I don't know if that's a bug, but we captured Moosh, and I think one of the little miniature mushrooms that Moosh summons was in play when the capture was successful, meaning that that mushroom is now a neutral faction. It's disappeared now with that attack, but it seems like it persisted past the character that it was spawned from, and that character's I guess, despawn from the playing field is not linked with the despawn to its minions. So yeah, depth 4 in Gatordrick is not so bad, actually. Now, I might have just jinxed myself here because we are fighting a couple of tricky opponents in a small area. But it seems like we're doing okay. I'm definitely feeling the lack of healing power that I would normally have with Zaya on my team working in synergy with Kruth. But that's okay. As long as we can be safe and not take too much damage. The real trick, I think, is when we encounter Kisara. I would guess that Kisara is another Adorer, that she's going to be similar to the fights with Bikoro or Thune. Or not Thune, I guess it was the other guy, whose name I can't remember at this time, for the quest to discover where or what happened to Thune. So I'm noticing a recurring trend that the boss fights seem to be predominantly Adorers. Ooh, a blessed Moosh. We don't have the stuff we need to capture it, so we are just going to go hog wild here and beat the playing field here. We're taking a little bit of damage. Our creatures are taking some damage here. Not a happy occasion, and here comes the special attack from... Oh, did you just see that glitched out? Thodine teleported across the screen, landing an unfair hit on my backside. So, you know, early access, I guess those kind of things are going to happen. But it really does not look like we are going to be successful in this particular run, just because I've got my two primary DPS characters are already at half health. We're missing key players in our healing strategy for this team with the absence of Zaya. And plus we're at depth 4. That's a higher level challenge than all the other content that we've played through, except for in the last episode. But there's no point in withdrawing now. We'd lose fragments and other things, and you never know. Maybe we'll have a decent fight against the Kisara Adorer, if that is what I expect it to be. Just have to be careful, probably run some of our creatures into a bit of a cursed amount of damage, so that way our Adorer doesn't have to soak up the initial damages. We still have Fubu and good spirits, so here again, you're noticing that these Scraws, although being attacked, before they initiate their attacks are still being executed. I think that might be something to do with the armor, as that is a more recent addition to the game, such that the creatures who have magical or physical armor probably don't have the stagger or interrupt effect from when they take damage from a player's unit. Creatures without the armor, I would imagine, do. So we'll try to keep a close eye, or maybe review this video to see if those are evident, or if there's something more going on. So we've cleared all of the subzones except for the northeastern zone here. And I'm guessing we'll clear this area, and the end result will be that we'll discover the Adorer Kisara in the next zone. Next objective area, I don't know what to call these segments within the map zones. So there you can see each one of Scraw's attacks was staggering that other Scraw. Here you'll notice that Zaya is getting staggered by each of Kruth's attacks. So I think that's probably what's happening, is creatures that have armor, for example, you notice that the Icy here did not get staggered while it was still armored. So I think we figured out where that glitch is coming from, where the attacks aren't being interrupted. Not so much of a glitch as it is just a fact of programming, where the armored creatures seem to have a protection against interrupt or stagger. That does not include, of course, the special abilities to stun. Now look here, there's a big stone block, but it looks like there's something behind it. Most curious. Well, looks like we've got even more zones to clear before we find the final fight. Oh, this is a mess. Okay, clean that up a little bit. Scraw's still taking some damage. No bueno. We gotta keep these characters as high of health as we can, because I'm very concerned about a depth 4 boss fight and how much that's gonna take out of us. So we're gonna have to use Bea, or not Bea, the oh, what's this creature's name? Domu. There we go. We're going to have to use Domu for most of our healing. You can see that's proven to be pretty effective. We got Scraw back up to full health. Another artifact to be identified once we get back to town. And even if we don't win this fight, we'll still come back and retrieve our stuff and just wait for the quest to re-initiate. Here there's the red zone marker, so that's the next zone is going to be the boss fight. All of our creatures are fully healed. Our Adorer is not in the greatest health at 94 out of 140. So let's take a look at our consumables. I've got one handy-dandy meal, 50% of the health restored, plus divine protection. That's going to cap off Luca to full health if we decide to use that. So we're going to save that for mid-fight. And here we go. I think we want to have Fubu in position 1. I'm going to put Scraw into position 2. So we've got our blessed creatures up in the front order. Catch some dialogue here. So it looks like these characters are supposed to have some sort of a history. I personally don't remember Kisara from earlier in the game, but it seems that they were coming to train as Adorers, and Kisara was not able to pass the tests, whereas Luca was, and she's angry and bitter about the fact that she didn't get the cut. And so she's attacking us. Oof. Starting off with a Nira. She's very evasive. Now she's starting to summon out 2 characters at once. Her into this battle area here. Oh, okay. Time to move Fubu to the back lines, eat our consumable so Luca doesn't die. We're just going to continue this battle as best we can. Going into heavy DPS mode now. Avoiding attacks again. Not playing fair. And it looks like somehow she's affecting a damage onto me as the Adorer. And I can't quite figure out where that's coming from. Maybe that area effect attack that she's using is causing me damage just by being near it. My goodness, she is avoiding my attacks way too easily. There we go. Oof, that was a little close, too close for comfort. But we did it. Dialogue continues. She's after the runes, we're after the runes, and she's not telling us why. So let's use our imagination a little bit. Kisara, someone who was trying to become an Adorer, did not pass the tests and is angry about it. Maybe is trying to go out and just accomplish the work of an Adorer without the training, and thereby prove herself. So I see this possibly evolving one of 2 ways. It's going to be either Kisara becomes an ally when she tries to do something that she's not trained for, or she becomes more of a penultimate opponent when she achieves something that an Adorer should be doing, but because she lacks the training becomes corrupted by whatever it is that's affecting the creatures of Draknar. But this level was a success. We didn't get any of our creatures cursed. We captured a new creature, got lots of fragments. Here we are back in town. Let's check on the status of Zaya. Nearly halfway healed. The artifact we just found is called the Book of Bones. After using the staff ability, your creatures do 30% bonus damage on their next attack. So that's interesting. That's a big burst of damage. But I don't see the efficacy of it because we don't know the cooldown on the staff's ability yet. So, for example, if I use the staff's ability, which, if you didn't see the last episode, is listed here, that when the staff is activated, the Adorer can summon creatures freely without spending stamina. So basically you get to pull all of your creatures out into the battlefield at one time. And with that artifact, the next attack they do gives a bonus of 30% damage. Now what's unclear is if that applies to each creature or to whichever creature attacks first. So let's, for example, look at the staff's ability. To activate it, we'll push X. And then at the same time, we're going to click all of the attacks for our creatures. Oh. Our special is not charged. Why is our special not charged? That's weird. Maybe we can only use that while in level, so I guess we'll need to do some more experimentation with that. Let's take a look. Our creatures after a depth 4 battle. Domu and Kruth, of course, are capped at level 5 still. Fubu got just a sliver of experience. Skra got quite a bit more. So I'm guessing that we're going to have to grind quite a bit to level up these creatures. But I am eager to see if they can go to a higher level than level 5. Here's an inexpensive meal for 35% healing. We have no ingredients to cook. So food is becoming quite an important thing. And the next quest is that we now need to find Tarl again. So Tarl was the character that stopped us from finding Thune, and I believe that Tarl is the character who originally went to find Thune and failed because he found the broken wagon and Thune was nowhere to be seen. So I guess now we're going back to talk to Tarl, so there will be more revealed in that little dialogue if we do this quest. It is a depth 4, so I suppose it makes sense that we would keep the same team. We will encounter one blessed creature, and we will get one particle of Gator Drake. So before we start into this, because we're going to have to fight Tarl again, I think it would be wise to figure out some synergies with our blessed creatures. For example, I think that Skra needs something more like Zaya's abilities. So generating healing orbs when there's a beast in play is what Zaya's special is. So maybe we could attach something like that onto Skra, at least until we find a blessed Zaya or something similar. Because I would like to find versions of my original team, Kruth, Zaya, Domu, and really anything for slot 4 would be fine. But we've also got to consider that when we look at our creature synergies, they can only have one beast synergy, one nature synergy, one arcane, and one mystic. So a question that I have then is, if I can have up to 6 synergies, how are we going to balance that? If you notice here, Skra has 2 synergies used because he has a level 2 synergy. And my original team was Beast and Nature. I'm kind of going with a 2 type of creature team, because if we do have a limit of 6 points for their specials, their synergies, we could use a level 3 essence and really maximize those things. And then that way we don't need to worry about that third ability. We could do 3 at level 2 on a blessed team, but then we'd have sort of an odd arrangement where there would need to be 3 creature types in play, alternating, rather than just 2. I think that just having 2 is a lot more consistent. I think we'll see a lot more of the process happening with multiple attacks and with healing and such, if we stay consistent with this. So we do want a nature synergy with Scraw. However, question mark. Let's do some science. We have 1 level 2 Mystic Essence. If we apply a level 2 Mystic Essence to a creature that has a level 1 Mystic Essence synergy already, will it override it? Let's take a look. We're going to put Fubu back into storage. Find one of our creatures. I think Grin has a Mystic, yes, defensive orb, so we're going to take Grin out. Bring Grin back up to the synergy NPC with Mina. Now, yes, we could level up defensive orb. It does not look like it's going to give us a choice in choosing a new trait, though. So that is interesting. I think it's time to start holding on to our level 2 essences that we get from capturing blessed creatures. That's going to be the new farming need. For non-blessed creatures, I don't see the need to use the higher level essences on them. They're going to cap at level 5. That's going to very much limit their utility in gameplay. I'm thinking once we reach depth 5, that's going to be very sticky. We might not be able to defeat bosses in level 4 just using a standard team without any blessed characters. But we'll see how that goes. I think for now, even though Zaya is not at full strength, I think that we need to have that synergy with our team, focusing on healing. And something I was painfully aware of is I modified the Adorer's runes to increase the maximum health of the Adorer by 40, but the Adorer did not start with that full health. I needed to heal up to that health. So I think what we want to do is remove that maximum health, and we're going to go for the rune that lets us capture or create healing orbs. If we can get this up to tier 3 with a 20% chance, that's going to heal our Adorer and our creatures. And with this healing team, I think that is the most sustainable way of doing things. Now, Scraw's the only one that's going to be benefiting from this run, but I think with this team, we'll have a much better chance defeating Tarl one more time. So, without further ado, let's begin to adore. That's a tough choice going with health or stamina. I think I'm going to go with stamina regen this time around just to see if that does help me to summon and recall creatures at a faster rate during the boss fight. So it looks like Scraw gets another trait, Kruth gets another trait, and Domu gets another trait. Scraw can select a new ability. Looks like Kruth and Domu have reached their limit, Zay has reached their limit, but we can still add points to the existing abilities. So with Kruth, critical attack chance, maximum health, movement speed, evasion, or benefits from healing effects more. And I think benefiting from healing effects sounds solid for Kruth. As for Domu, special energy increases faster, attack speed, movement speed, damage to armor, or evasion. I think special energy because Domu is a powerful asset for our healing, so we want that to happen just a little bit more often. And with Scraw, we could choose a new ability. Or give it more leech. So now leech is at 20%. I think this is going to be a solid way to build up Scraw since we have multiple attacks. 20% chance per attack, that's, you know, on average going to pan out to even, okay, so this is a, what do we call it? Binomial probability, where the previous iteration has no bearing on the next iteration of Scraw's attacks at 20%. They are each independently 20% chance. So the question would be, will we see more of a 60% life leech on average over, say, 1,000 attacks, or will it still resemble 20% across 1,000 attacks? I think the latter. I think it's going to be... Oh, and it's... Blessed Felwyn. Gross. I was not impressed with Blessed Felwyn. It dies very easily and quickly. Did not do impressive damage by any count. Oh, that's totally fair game. Just make them pop out their special attack right away and give me no space to move. Definitely not a fan of getting swarmed in small areas where you really have no strategic opportunities. Everything so far is leading up to a game that is mostly tactical, so a reflexive style of gameplay where the player basically is not able to control the situation of how many enemies they attack, but rather is just simply going to try to reflexively react within a given scenario. Which isn't necessarily a reflection of skill so much as it is just how good of a computer and network connection does the player have. Because reflex games are oftentimes dictated by the ping, the upload and download speeds, even if it is microseconds. In my opinion, that is the governing factor. Once a player becomes proficient in a game, there's really not much to be said about skill, just because the motor habits, well, there are some people like, you know, in baseball games, they will actually do tests to analyze the reflex speeds of the players to determine their batting potential. That's something that scouts are going to do for baseball players to see, you know, is this person actually going to be able to rise to a professional competitive level? And sure, that might make a difference if, you know, we were in a total real sync time with the game environment and our controls. But again, we're talking about reflexive microseconds, and a computer is not going to resemble the same frame rates and ping as a real-life situation. And therefore, I say that the reflexology of game playing and skill is a myth. I think that mostly the skill that comes in any game comes from strategy, where the player is able to manipulate situations using terrain and other resources in a way that dictates how the battle evolves, or how the circumstance evolves. So games like this, we don't have that strategy as much as we do just the reflexology. And so once you become skilled as a player, you've learned where the buttons are, you've got your patterns and routines essentially programmed into your muscle memory, called motor memory, then I think you've kind of hit a cap, and everything else that happens in the game isn't so much a matter of skill as it is a matter of circumstance, with the game's scales of artificial intelligence, spawning, attack speeds, and so on. So it really just turns into a numbers game. And it does resemble well enough, I guess, a challenge to skill, because, you know, we are, after all, flawed beings. Why is this guy getting multiple special attacks? That's interesting. Anyway, we are flawed beings, so there is a likelihood that we're going to make mistakes. We're going to sometimes hit the wrong button, or we're going to not react to something when normally we would have. And that's a factor that, you know, hard scripting with numbers like attack speeds and damages and things like that really doesn't allow for human error. It's basically the difficulties are going to be averaged around the typical player's stats to ascertain a certain measure of success or failure in any ratio of statistical probabilities. Fancy way of saying that to beat a game like this, all you need to do is level up your characters. Of course, being that characters do have limited levels, another factor, limiting factor I would say in this game, is that we'll need to be able to capture the legendary creatures at some point. It seems that that's likely to be an element, not necessarily a showstopper or a limiting factor, but it is an element of late game. Since it exists, I'm sure that the programmers have balanced that in to allow for progression, where characters will or players will have to replace characters over time because of that level cap, perhaps, or because of their rarity. So in the end, what that tells me is there's really not a lot of point in leveling up lower level characters, but just try to finish the main quest line, unlock as much content as possible, as soon as possible, so that you can start creating your final team of the game. And then leveling them up becomes the real team building exercise that we'll have in this game. Anything prior to that, I mean, you could... wow. Okay, so... again, the attack didn't get interrupted when it was supposed to. Felwyn's little whirlwind sat there and took Scraw down 50% of his health. Anyway, yeah, you can still use the lower level characters, these level 5 non-blessed creatures, to do some farming in lower levels. But for progression and endgame content, I'm sure that we'll want blessed and maybe a super blessed or 2 creatures on our team. Here's Tarl. He's greeting us, came for a rematch, he thinks. So Tarl wants us to prove that we can beat him again. He wants a rematch before he's going to share his knowledge or power with us. So we're going to play the hit and run game again. He's keeping his creatures in play for a long duration. Once they proc that attack, we'll be in good shape. And there, my creatures went and attacked the wrong target. Tarl's a pretty easy fight, predictable strategy used against him. Avoid his area attacks. Keep a heavy DPS on him. Try to break his shields as often as possible. And avoid his minions. There it is. So, patterns help. Tarl's the same fight as the last time. Just knowing how to avoid his creatures and time your attacks for when his creatures are expiring pays off. So Tarl is no longer making any money because he's been banned from dueling festivals. And he's now, even though he said he would give us the rune after we defeated him, asking us to pay him for it. So we've got 1,000 coin, 1,000 gold. We're just going to go ahead and pay that up. And now he's telling us a little backstory about Bikoro. The adorer that was running around in Depth 2 in the Kiha Mountains says that Bikoro left the village when he was young. Okay, so now we've got the Mystic Rune. Once again, pretty successful level for Depth 4. Seems that our creatures are in decent health. Nobody's in cursed status, and oh, we still have an area to clear, so let's take a look and see what we have left on the map. There it is. So there's a zone way over on the far end that we could still clear. We're going to take this a little safer because I think Scraw took some damage. He's a little lower on health. We're going to put him on the 4th slot there to clear this last zone. And if I had to guess, I think that, yeah, we're going to have to go back to Kiha Mountains now and talk to Bikoro. You know, another thought that I'm having here too is there is a reason to do a little bit of practice in the early game while leveling up some of your creatures, just to see what they can do in combat situations. I think that's important that we understand, you know, what the creatures are doing in combat, so we can understand what the enemies are likely to do in combat when we encounter the same ones. And we never did find our blessed creature for this level, did we? Or did we? No, it was a Felwyn, that's right. Yes, not a useful creature by my count. Felwyn's a difficult opponent because of the way that the artificial intelligence draws the player's creatures through Felwyn's attack, which is the vortex that comes out. But when you are using Felwyn, and Felwyn uses that ability, usually the enemies will path around it and just simply avoid that attack, period. So it hasn't proven to be very useful DPS unless you can use it in conjunction with a stun. And the damage is passing. It's okay, but it's not great with Felwyn. So I just don't think that Felwyn's going to have a place on the team, blessed or not. Oops. Regardless, it's time to go back to the village. Take a look at... Ooh, everybody's healed up to full. That's wonderful. Take a look at Moosh. Moosh is a nature creature. Spawns a healing mushroom that follows the Adorer unless there is an ally creature that needs healing. So Moosh is a healing creature. That is good news. So possibly an alternate or an additive to the team. If we could find a blessed Moosh, that would be alright. But for now, let's compare stats between Domu and Moosh. Domu is our other third slot healer that we typically use. Damage of 9, speed of 6 at level 5. Moosh is faster, does more damage. But the healing mushroom will either follow the Adorer and heal the Adorer, or an ally creature, whereas Domu has an area effect healing. So that could be a nice pattern to run if Moosh was, say, in slot 4, and using their combined specials on a DPS team with Kruth and Zaya, with Zaya's healing empowerment and healing orbs, and Kruth's ability to... in the traits, I guess it is, get bonus healing. That's a pretty solid early game team. However, that will have to wait until next week, because when we look at the map, we do indeed see that in Kiha Mountains, we will be fighting Bikoro once again. There's a nice level 3 pearl to achieve in that zone. But Bikoro was a tricky fight. I'd have to say that it was a little harder than Tarl. So at depth 4, I can only imagine. So we're going to take a look at some of these other levels and see what kind of loot is available. Nothing really standing out. Here we have 2 blessed creatures and 2 particles of Gatordrick, so in the Forgotten Lands, that would be tough due to the lack of healing orbs that we could generate. If you remember in the last episode, we saw that in the Forgotten Lands, there's sort of a shortage of urns. There's not a lot of places that the Adorer can use the Adorer's rune to create the healing orbs to help the team recover. So if we do go here with the particles, we're going to have to go with a different rune for that level. but it would be a good opportunity to farm up more creatures, more blessed creatures, because I think that I will need to have a team of blessed characters to really progress further into endgame. And unfortunately, I don't see any other blessed creatures available in depth 3, although we could farm up a level 2 pearl. In depth 2, nothing there. And likewise in depth 1. So that means that at depth 3 we could go for the pearl. Or at depth 4, in the Forgotten Lands, we could go for more blessed creatures. So I'll take care of some of that in between plays. Next week we will tackle the Kiham Mountains. We'll be sure to have that quest queued up where we will get to fight Bikoro. And you'll get to see that in next week's episode of Adore the Quest. Until then, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.